How do we organize creativity? This is an important question and issue for almost every organization. To answer this question, I think it is important to unpack creativity and what it means to organize it. So what is creativity? Creativity really is about ideas. And ideas are essentially what I would call the lifeblood of organization. Organizations need small and big ideas to function efficiently and effectively. And creativity then is about generating and developing ideas and also evaluating ideas. So generating and developing, having these ideas and communicating them and developing with others, but also evaluating these ideas, whether they are suitable for the organization, what kind of worth they have, what kind of value they have. And these are sort of two essential ideas two essential concepts in creativity. And of course, organizations want to organize generating and developing and evaluating ideas. But this is a very complex social process which has a lot of different dimensions. And I think it is important to try to capture this complexity while still retaining a sort of simplicity for us to use some sort of heuristic or framework to understand how we organize creativity. And so I think there are three important dimensions to creativity. There's context, process, and practice. So if we start with context, context really is about giving orientation to your employees or the members of the organization. And context usually is regarded as cultural or structural. So cultural contexts are really the norms and values and beliefs of the employees of the organizations, while structures are the formalized processes, routines and regulations on which the organizations depend to reach their goals or reach their mission. So this is usually kind of the context in which creativity occurs. But then we have the occurrence of creativity, which is the process and how it unfolds over time. So if we're talking about the processual dimension of creativity, we need to think about time and temporality. How much does the past influences idea generation, evaluation processes? How much does the present influence it? How much do I pay attention? How much am I motivated to do things? And also the future. How do I imagine my ideas will turn out and what kind of value they will generate for the organization? So it's important to think about the process and how it unfolds over time. And lastly, when we are creative and we are having ideas and evaluating ideas, we're doing things. Like there are practices that are very much pronounced in creativity processes. We draw, we tinker, we also have mental practices, we think. So all these three dimensions are mutually interdependent, I would argue, and are important when organizing creativity, or to consider when we organize creativity. So let me just give a brief example before I conclude. So a very common aspect or a very common practice in creativity is brainstorming. So brainstorming is really something that has become very influential and very popular, not least among students, to generate ideas. And so this is a practice. We get together, we talk about our ideas and generate as many ideas as we can. But these, of course, don't happen in a vacuum, but they happen in a specific context. So the context of brainstorming is very important. What are the cultural values? Are we open to each other's ideas? What are the kind of power and politics there? Are you trying to impress things? Are there regulations around things that you can and cannot say? So there's a certain context in which brainstorming happens. And of course, this affects the process of how it unfolds over time. Do people talk about their ideas? What kind of ideas do they generate? How do they think about the experience they had before when they generate ideas, and all these sort of different processual influences that sort of are present when we are brainstorming or engaging in brainstorming practices. So to conclude, it is important to think about these three dimensions when we are assessing and evaluating our creativity in organizations. What is the context that I'm specifically dealing with? How does the context influence process and practice? What are common practices and how are they governed by context, and what kind of process follows? So these three dimensions, I think, they create a a good framework of making sense of how we organize creativity.